I really used to love Adobe. I used to be a huge fanboy, but really over the days, over the years, it just deteriorated. Today, I want to talk about Adobe. So I started using Adobe back in 2004 in high school, and it was a great tool for me. I even joined the yearbook class, and this is a cover that I made for my high school in Adobe Illustrator using vectors, and I really loved the software. And it was a big part of why I got into graphic design. And in university, I was forced to buy a license. So this over here is a Adobe Creative Suite license. Some of you might not even know this, but this is CDs, installation discs. And one thing that I realized was that Adobe, it's expensive. So over here, you can see a price of $789. And that's pretty expensive for a license, but that's okay because when I bought this, I owned it. And I owned it for many years. And I still own it, which is great. So one thing that happened with Adobe is that they turned into a subscription service. And I didn't really care that much about it for a long time because I was still using my license for many, many years after they turned into a subscription service. But one thing that happened was that when I started working with clients that were using the new software, I couldn't really edit and do the things that I wanted to do with the old software. So there was a compatibility issue, and I had to force myself to upgrade to the new software, which meant that I then had to start paying the monthly subscription fee. And the thing is that I didn't mind paying this monthly price, but there were two things that kept on creeping up over the years. One of them was the price. It kept on increasing every single year. And the other thing was that the other softwares around Adobe were catching up. So Adobe, even though it was industry standard, the other softwares that weren't industry standard were quickly catching up to Adobe, and you didn't really need Adobe software anymore to be really competitive in the field that you're in. So over the past years, I've been slowly easing off the Adobe products, and the first one that I actually eased off on was Premiere Pro. So in my YouTube videos, I started editing with DaVinci Resolve. And I also looked into other softwares like Affinity, and I got a couple of them to see if they could substitute and take over and replace Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And right now I have version 2 Affinity, and it's actually enough for me to say, okay, it's time to cut things off. So earlier this year, I cut off my Adobe monthly subscription. And just tallying up the numbers as to how much I've paid for Adobe subscriptions and licenses and so on, it's a bit over $3,000. So right now for video editing, I use DaVinci Resolve. Instead of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, I use Affinity products for all of these three. And for photography, I used to use Lightroom, but then I swapped over to DxO, and that's what I use now to sort, edit, and filter my photography. And all of these softwares, DaVinci Resolve, Affinity package, and also DxO, it comes up to under $1,000. And that is with a full license. So yet again, I'm getting this over here that Adobe used to do, but with other softwares. Some breaking news is that recently Affinity got bought up by Canva. That means that perhaps down the road they might turn into a subscription-based model. Right now, there's still a license-based model for their software, but who knows what will happen down the road. It's just kind of sad when I see like a company that I used to love and trust and enjoy using for such a long time really milk their customers, their loyal customers for decades for everything they have. You milk them for their money, you milk them for their creative output, you milk them for their loyalty, you milk them for everything. With all the new softwares coming out that are on par or even better, in my opinion, than the Adobe lineup, it's a no-brainer for me to take some time to explore these options and start using them in my workflow. So everything that I'm using right now is Adobe-free, and I love it. Now, if you have any Adobe stories, then comment those down below. I know that Adobe is actually a great software. If your company uses Adobe and you get Adobe Creative Suite for free, then milk that thing dry. So yeah, that's my story as to why I'm not with Adobe Creative Cloud anymore. And if you have a story that you want to share about Creative Cloud and Adobe and so on, well, comment that down below in the description. My name is Paul, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.